Hello everyone and welcome to the backtracking episode proper for Slipknot. Sorry that it took so long to get it out, but here we go. We start with Slipknot's debut album, Slipknot. Released in 1999, it came out primarily through Roadrunner Records and it was produced by Ross Robinson with the help of many other people. Now, seeing as I went through a lot of this album's background for the very brief history video, I may as well just start right away with talking about it. It starts with a small intro track titled 74261700027, which is the band's signature barcode number, before then kicking into the first actual song, Sick, in brackets. And when I say it kicks in, that is an understatement. This album is full blast aggression from the fucking start, and considering that that's the band's shtick, then yeah, it works for them. That was at the behest of Robinson, who encouraged the band to stick to the aggression, but the band's experimental side still sort of shows. The early stages do, at least. The instrumental work is telling of the album's pacing, with crushing riffs and drum work, with the sampling adding quite a lot. The production is unique too, as Ross wanted to capture a raw live sound, which I think was achieved quite well. I mean, Joey recorded the drums for this thing in just 3 days, so that really helped a lot with the intended sound. The album structure keeps the pacing fantastically, hopping around but staying in its lane, and for an hour-long album, that's difficult to do. The lyrics cover what would become the usual Slipknot themes of conformity, nihilism, and violence, so yay. The performances, I mean, everyone's on form, especially Corey Taylor, who about screams his throat off and taps into his natural charisma quite early in the band's career. My favourite song goes to Surfacing. Slipknot's eponymous debut is loud, gripping, and surprisingly well put together, and it absolutely deserves its legacy. Next is Slipknot's second album, Iowa. Released in 2001, it would be released through the same labels and produced by the same people as last time. This was also the first Slipknot album to properly have all 9 members, as Jim Rowe only did 2 songs on the debut, so there you go, a little bonus fact for you. So this would be the first and not the last case of band tensions erupting, as the touring and recording was driving them all, as we like to say in Britain, a bit potty. They still promoted the album throughout all of that, doing so wonderfully by the way, and I mean, fuck yes. It starts with the intro track 515 and then kicks into first actual song People Equal Shit. So this album is fantastic, and I'm going to tell you how fantastic. First, the instrumental work is so good. It's more technical, it slaps heavier, and even the less pronounced elements of Craig Jones and Sid Wilson make their presence felt here. The lyrics go into more personal topics like love, hopelessness, drug addiction, and mental health, all told in Slipknot's signature dark way, and also Corey Taylor was going through a really rough patch in his life around this time, so I'm really glad that he survived long enough to make this album and is still alive today. And Ross Robinson works his bollocks off to make sure that this album sounds as good as it does, and it sounds fucking great. The band do not relent at all, with their infighting sparking some flames of expert fan control not laying up in the least. And the structuring, again, albums this long should not be this good, but Slipknot just make it work each time. My favourite song goes to the Heretic Anthem, because it's a fucking badass song is why. I mean, Iowa and the album before it are iconic for a reason, and despite the drama that hangs around the album, it pays off monstrously. Absolutely listen to this thing. Next is the band's third album, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. Released in 2004, it would come out through Roadrunner again, but it would be produced by Rick Rubin this time around. It also contains my first Slipknot song, In Duality, which I'm sure was everyone's first Slipknot song, so anyway, after Iowa and the touring that followed to promote that album, this album cycle would be a bit delayed as most of the band members got involved in a lot of side projects, most notably the reformation of Corey Taylor's old band Stone Sour. But these other projects did help the band after the hellish process that was Iowa, and now I get to talk about that healing. We begin with Prelude 3.0, which despite having Prelude in the name, is an actual song, which is nice. It's also a good peek into a new addition to this album, which is Melody, which made a lot of people happy. I'm only half joking, but the point is, I'm really glad that an album like this exists because boy did these guys need to put an album like this. A lot of the instrumental work informs the different take on the album, and it's still as heavy as you like while it goes on. The lyrics also slightly change up with some familiar subjects to Slipknot, but also new things like talking about their relationship with the music industry, as well as disaffection and anger. It's also produced phenomenally, as you would come to expect from Rick Rubin, who just adds so much to this, as he does with pretty much every album he works on, because he's the GOAT. The band all kill it as well, but I'm giving special mention to Joey Jordison for killing it on all fronts here, but pretty much everyone's great. Everybody. And the melody adds a lot of flavour to the structure, giving it a bit of a lightness that I didn't really get from the first 2 albums. My favourite song goes to Pulse of the Maggots. The Subliminal Verses is a nice change of pace for the band, it's an album that they needed to put out, and it's another great addition to their list of accomplishments. Next is the band's 4th album, All Hope Is Gone. Released in 2008, it will come out through the same label, it will be produced by Dave Fortman, Sean Crahan, and several others. So this was my first full Slipknot album, and the band's first in 5 years as of the side project slowed the work for this one. I will say, I know that this album is seen as the black sheep in Slipknot's back catalogue, but I've got a soft spot for it. I mean, I got it as a gift in Christmas 2008 from my uncle, so yeah, this one means a lot to me, and I understand that this album gets flack, but I personally think it's a bit unwarranted. Anyway, let's talk about the album itself before I keep getting sentimental. So, it starts with the intro quality track titled Execute, and the first actual song follows that in Gematria, The Killing Name. And You know, I really just don't get the hate for this one. It starts off and carries on like any other Slipknot album. The first song is aggressive in its tone and style, and the album switches to a different metal sound, but it baffles me that people are shocked by Slipknot of all bands experimenting this much. It's not instrumentally lacking, and I welcome more melody and guitar solos, and everyone just kills it here. Corey puts in a dizzying central performance with some of his best and most range-clean singing to date. I mean, you could make the argument that there is a lot of producers, but it's a competently handled album despite that, and everything sounds like it's supposed to. Lyrics cover more pertinent topics like politics, mental disease, pain and love, and the delivery is as great as usual. And it's got good bones to it, it's put together nicely, and the experimentation really works well and adds a lot to it. I mean, yeah, I do personally have a soft spot for this one, but it's also a lot better than people remember it being, and it's also more accessible, so go listen to it. Honestly, I think All Hope Is Gone deserves way more love than it gets. It does not deserve the hate it gets. Next is the band's fifth album, Point 5 The Grey Chapter. Released in 2014, it would be released through Roadrunner, and it was produced by Greg Fidelman alongside some members of Slipknot. So, yeah, there was a 6-year time gap between albums, the longest the band have ever taken. Half of that was of the projects, but most of it was the departure of Joey Jordison in 2013, and more importantly, the passing of Paul Gray in 2010, and this album is a tribute to the man. The album would also give us new members Alessandro Venturella and Jay Weinberg on bass and drums respectively, which is good. Now to the album itself. It starts with intro track XIX, which is a setup for the following song, Sarcastrophe, and, well, there's already something new from that alone. The band's heavier side from Iowa is more present, but it also has the atmosphere that the band adopted on All Hope Is Gone. And that atmosphere is arguably because, well, there was a cloud hanging over everyone's heads because of Paul Gray's passing. But at the same time, that does inform a lot of the album. For example, the instrumental work is as heavy as it needs to be, with incredible restraint when needed. The lyrics are inspired by the usual Slipknot themes, with added concepts like Paul's death and the impact that it had on all the members, especially Corey, who is not afraid to let his feelings known in any case. The production is once again solid, making everything sound clean and organic without taking too much attention away from anything or focusing it too much on one thing. The performances are more driven now, and you can feel the emotion is a lot heavy behind everyone's playing. And the structure, again, is good, with some nice build-up tracks and a lot of the control chaos that you've come to love from the Nine. My favourite song goes to Skeptic. The Grey Chapter is a touching tribute, and the organic feel, powerful performances and sense of emotion add to it all wonderfully. It's a beautiful album. And finally, with me not doing as much crying as I was expecting to, we reached Slipknot's sixth and most recent album, We Are Not Your Kinds. Released in 2019, it came out through the same label, and it was produced by the same people. This is also the band's first without percussionist Chris Fain, as he would file a lawsuit and leave the band, and it'll be the first with Michael Pfaff, better known as Tortilla Face. I would go through more background here, but it's sort of the same. A new Stone Sour album dropped in 2017, then Slipknot got to work on this one, so let's just go. It starts with intro track Insert Coin and then goes into Unsated, and we get the sense that we're not in for a typical Slipknot album. I mean, yeah, it's the band's typical aggression, but there's also more of a sense of maturity to everything. One thing that helps is more experimenting, with more of everything just coming together a lot more organically than a lot of their previous work. The core sound is messed with a lot in the best ways, with the pacing of the instrumental work being a very good highlight of this. There's a lot of restraint in that regard, and it lets the very lovely production elements breathe, which do such a damn good job of adding to this album's sound. The lyrics are once again great and dark, covering topics like depression, loss, pain and politics, all done in a personal dark way, the only way that Slipknot really knows how, and a lot of it was inspired by Corey's relationship troubles as well, so that does play a factor into it. The performances are top notch as always, with everyone delivering maybe their best work, at least as part of Slipknot in my opinion. My favourite song goes to the closing track, Solway Firth. We Are Not Your Kind indicates the band's uniqueness, it speaks volumes of their creativity, and it shows that they have plenty left in the tank still. So that's it, episode 2 of Backtracking is done and in the books. I think my next episode will be Motionless in White as requested by my friend Beth, so I'll get to work on that for her as soon as I can. And I want to give a thank you to Slim Jimmy, aka TG Black, for requesting this episode. It was a really fun one to write, and it'll give me whiplash for a lifetime from all the headbanging, but it's so fucking worth it. So yeah, Motionless in White will probably be next, and there'll be other stuff in the time between. Obviously there won't be a stream on Tuesday because well, today is Tuesday, but I don't know when I'll get this video put up, so there'll be a stream on Friday though. I'll probably get the video up before then. And before I go, I want to say thank you again to TJ Black for requesting it. It was a really, really fun one to write. And I'm loving that this is the format I'm taking on with people requesting bands, so it's really cool to do. And I guess I'll sign off now because I don't have a lot else to say or promote. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.